Good afternoon, family members. Welcome to the JMU family. Today, I am going to talk to you today about academic success at JMU. I'm Dr. Marquise McGee, and I'm the Interim Director of University Advising. Before I begin, I want to tell you just a little story. If you think about the Golden Girls back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, there's a character by the name of Sophia, and she always liked to tell a story by saying, picture this, it was the 1920s or 30s. So I'd like to tell you a story about the 1900s, to be specific, the 20th century. And it's about a new college student that came, that finally made it to school. First day here, there's a picture of him. We'll call him 20th Century McGee. And 20th Century McGee really didn't have a clue about being on a college campus, but he was excited about being on campus and finally making it to college. As a matter of fact, people kept telling him, you're smart, you should go to college. So he was there at the point, and his perceptions of his family were quite different than what they actually said. Dad said, you're on your own, good luck, buddy. Mom said, we'll pray for you, baby, do what you can. And his little brothers and sisters were sticking their tongues out, saying, so long, sucker. Well, that's not actually what either one said or his siblings said, but that was his perception at the time. But he was in awe. He had expectations to fulfill, and he had hopes and dreams about his future. Didn't have any classes at that particular time, and was actually about to be hauled off to a hall, a building, to find out if he can get into his classes, because internet was not readily available at that particular time. So he got there. And again, it was like, I made it, I'm here, now what? So he had that feeling. And I'm sure some of your students are probably feeling the same way today, and especially when they get here in August, about that feeling of, I've made it here, now what do I do? And so one of the things we realized as time went on that 20th Century McGee didn't get a chance to experience is that family is important to the student's journey in college. And so you matter to them, but you also matter to us as well, and will contribute to your student success over time. So what does it take for JMU students to achieve academic success? Well, first step was being able to get accepted to the university. So you can check that off. They've done that at this point. The next step was to be able to attend orientation, which is what they're doing today. And you're doing as well, to learn about the culture of JMU, sort of expectations, but also the opportunities and experiences that they will have a chance to encounter while they're here at JMU. They've also had a chance to meet their college rep today. So that individual is someone that they probably can reach out to if they have questions specific to the college or opportunities within the college of their major as well. And they also have a connection with their orientation leaders, the OPAs, those upperclassmen. They can give them the inside scoop on what it's really like to be a student today in these current times as well. And then as we are speaking right now, they're having a session with their first year academic advisor to learn about the curriculum, those requirements they need to take in order to graduate with a degree from here. And then it also have some activities and questions to answer to engage with one another as well. So those are some of the things that get you started as a student. And since we're talking about academic advising, I want to share with you a little bit about the process for academic advising. Now, towards the end of my presentation, you'll have a chance to, I'll be able to answer your questions that you have. So again, there's a Q&A box beneath you. If you want to put your questions in there, then we will have some time left over to answer those questions. So I promise I won't take too long with my presentation, because I do want to answer those questions that you have. So the way it works at JMU in terms of advising for your student is that they will, every new student that enters JMU is assigned a first year advisor, and that's the individual that they're meeting with today. The first year advisors are faculty and professional advisors from across all different academic programs who are specifically trained to assist students during their transition to JMU. Somewhere around mid-February, they'll transition to their major advisor. So the major advisors are the experts in their respective areas. So they're familiar with the core sequences that they need to take. They're also will serve as mentors for your students. And in a lot of cases, they will share the information that students need to know before going into the field, or opportunities that might lend themselves to gain some experience before they go into the field itself. They also continue that facilitation of the student progress. So first year advisors will help them with some of the challenges and issues of transitioning to JMU. And then every year after that, there's always a new set of challenges that your students will encounter. And that's where the major advisors come in handy as well, to make sure that they make that smooth transition as they matriculate. So that's the gist of the process of how it works for first year advisor. If a student has not determined their actual major yet, so they're exploring at this point, considered undeclared, then we do have what's called exploratory advisors, and your student is assigned to that if they have not chosen a major yet. So your student will be working with them to work through the decision-making process of trying to figure out which major might be a good fit for them. And so for the advisor role, as I mentioned before, not only are they helping students with the transition, but they also help with academic planning, the decision-making process, if you will, with those academic choices. They will address those questions and concerns that students have about the curriculum. So that's general education, major or degree requirements. They'll discuss those academic choices and figure out how those choices will affect them long-term, whether it's academic goals or career goals that they're facing with that. And then also help them to identify other resources on campus as needed. So I look at the advisor as a tour guide. If you were going to a different country and you had a tour guide, then the tour guide is the one that helps you to navigate your way in that new country, tells you about these wonderful opportunities and experiences that you can have, suggestions, and they also have things that you want to avoid while you're also on your trip as well. So they help you to learn the culture and the customs of that area, and that's what the advisor does. Now, in addition to the advisor role, if you're in any type of relationship, you know that there's communication is the key, and it's a two-way street here. And the same is no different for the student and advisor relationship. The student also has a role, and that's what they're learning today in their session, are those roles and how those roles, what they are expected to know when they get here. So we do expect them to know the academic requirements. We actually don't expect them to know everything just yet, but just be familiar with those requirements right now. As they matriculate each year, then they become familiar with those requirements. At some point, they won't even need to reach out to their advisor because they'll be familiar with what they need to do in order to graduate from JMU. So those are the general education courses to the degree program, and anything else in addition that they wish to achieve academically, being aware of those requirements. If they've chosen a major, we encourage our students to explore their career options early. Here at JMU, we look at the advising experience or academic experience as holistically. So we're just trying to help students see the big picture. So even though we've helped them with their first semester courses, we're looking at how those first semester courses will impact them a year down the road, 2 years down the road, so that they can make that progress, and then opportunities that will lend themselves that they may not even be aware of yet based on the schedule that they have today. If they don't have a schedule today, do not worry. We'll make sure that each student has at least 12 credits before they leave, and the students will be notified, and the advisor will let them know where they need to go to get help virtually today. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. They also need to know the preferred communication, method of communication for their advisor. So do they want the student to communicate with them via email? Is it that they want them to come during office hours, or even to sign up through some sort of virtual platform to meet with the advisor? But they need to know what's the best way to be in touch with their advisor and how they can access their advisor as often as possible. And then we also encourage the students to come when they attend those meetings to ask questions or ask questions about things they don't know. get clarification when needed, or if they have any concerns, to express those concerns to their first year advisor, and their first year advisor will do their best to answer those questions or point them in the right direction to make sure that they get the assistance that they need. Now, some of you may have attended college meetings earlier today and to learn about the curriculum, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about the curriculum, but really just give you the nuts and bolts of the JMU degree curriculum, the JMU degree. So you have a pie chart before you here, and the way it looks is you have the general education requirements. So you might have heard your students say, hey, I need a cluster 1 or cluster 2, all the way through cluster 5. Just think about a cluster of rocks or a cluster of nuts. That's the way the Gen Ed works here, is that there are a cluster of courses that students need to complete in order to meet or fulfill that particular topic that we believe students should be able to be proficient in before they graduate from JMU. So they'll have the Gen Ed requirements. The next part of the pie chart is the major requirements. These are all the courses they need to fulfill in the major. Degree requirement. Hello? All right. All right, I'll keep going. The next one is the degree requirement. So it will depend on which type of degree they're pursuing, whether it's a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts, or a Bachelor of Science. Hold on. I'm going to get that information. I saw that my screen got off. We're going to bring it back up again. All right. And we'll get back to where we need, right? All right. So we're back where we are. Pardon the technical difficulty that happens sometimes. So for the degree requirements, depending on which type of degree they're supposed to obtain at JMU, they'll have certain courses they need to take. Anything else outside of that will be considered elective credits. So students need 120 credit hours to graduate, or 120 credits in order to graduate minimum from JMU to receive their degree. Per semester, that ends up being about 15 credit hours a semester. For their first semester, some students may choose to take less, while others may choose to take more. So it's really up to them. And then we also look at the things that happen outside of the classroom. We consider those the co-curricular aspect that really contribute to what happens in the classroom and their overall experience. So we're encouraging students to get involved with extracurricular activities, try to find internship opportunities, get involved in student leadership opportunities, and then community engagement, whether that's locally or they're studying abroad somewhere to be involved with that. At some point, your students all students will struggle at some point. And how they cope with it is okay. It reminds me of the little boy who had saw a butterfly trying to get out of its cocoon. And so he took his scissors to try to cut it out. The butterfly couldn't fly. He asked his granddad, why isn't he flying? And his granddad says, oh, he needed to struggle in that cocoon in order to be able to push the fluid throughout the wings and throughout the body to be able to fly. And so I say all that because sometimes the students will struggle. It's okay if they struggle, but by no means we do not want any student to fail. And that's why we have people and resources here to help them to be successful here at JMU. So they're going to call you, and when they call you, you support them, you console them, but you also help them to take ownership in resolving that issue or that challenge that they have. By doing so, this will help create a sense of empowerment for them. So whenever they encounter another issue or challenge, they can reach out to you, they can reach out to someone on campus here, and we'll be able to help them. And before you know it, they won't be calling you anymore because they know how and feel empowered to take control of the situation. So, and then these are some of the resources that are available to you, to your students. And you might be wondering, why are you telling me about these resources? They're going to learn about some of these resources today and some of them in August when it becomes a little bit more relevant for them as they begin their journey here at JMU. But these resources are available to help and assist students on their academic journey. It's by no means a sign of weakness, but actually a sign of taking advantage, intelligence, by taking advantage of the resources that are available to them. So we have tutoring available in the learning centers, of course, the libraries. We have, as I mentioned before, the Career Center that will assist students on their journey, starting from the beginning. They can determine the skills that pay the bills for them, or develop those skills to pay the bills, as I call them. If they need help with online courses or some strategies, then the Learning Success Instruction, or LSI office, can assist them as well. And if they're struggling with time management or want to develop some new study skills, LSI can help them as well. So these are just a sample of what is available for your student. And then we are here to mobilize and help your students achieve their goals. If you think about hip hop artists, singers on the stage like Lady Gaga and Drake, they all have their entourage. So, there might be someone in the entourage that works in makeup, that also the PR person, and you might have someone that gets the crowd hyped before they actually come on stage to sing and perform. And I look at us, the employees of JMU that are here. We are the entourage of your students. We want to make sure your students are successful. We will do all that we can to make sure they are successful while they're here during this time. So we do really care about the students. We're going to make sure that we do all that we can to be successful in this case. All right. So I have a few tips to share with your students to help them to sort of create this culture of student academic success when they get here. One is to attend class regularly, emphasis on the class regularly, because being in a class is important. I know it makes sense to you and I, but sometimes some students will refrain from going to class for a short time period, and then they feel lost after that. So by doing so, they'll establish their presence in the classroom because the professor will see them. They'll also establish their credibility if they're actively engaged by answering questions or asking questions and participating in discussions. Even if they don't get the answer right, that's okay. They're more likely to remember that session because they were involved in that particular session while the professor was going over that topic. They should also seek feedback from faculty members early and often. I often tell my advisees to meet with their professor before the first test or quiz, or they'll be standing in line after the first test or quiz to meet with their professor. This gives the students a chance to learn about this professor's teaching style. Also, it's like a one-on-one with an expert, the actual person that's teaching the class. And they might get the inside scoop on how to do well. And they never know, it might lead to a job reference or recommendation for graduate school later on in life. They should also take action early when they're experiencing difficulties. So not waiting until November or waiting until April to say, I need help when it's towards the end of the semester, but start doing it early so they can recover. And oftentimes this means meeting with the professor and utilize some of those resources that I just mentioned. And then learning to strike a balance between their schoolwork and then other commitments that they'll have outside of the classroom now, rather than waiting until sophomore year or even the second semester. So trying to strike a balance and will help them to be successful as they learn to, not necessarily college, but learn how to manage their time well while they're here at JMU. And then being actively engaged in the campus community at large. So going to events, trying new things, even just going to the rec center to work out, those types of things will help them to feel connected to the university, but they also might lead to golden opportunities that they would have never expected. They also build on some of the experiences that they'll have or may not have had yet until they get here on our campus. So we encourage them, these are some of the things that we encourage them to do. And then we ask them to also be consistent with the things that they do and to be and to take action, because we can talk to students all day long, but if they don't take the action then they will not achieve what they hope to achieve while they're here at JMU. And then here's some prompts that I suggest for parents. Just asking, are you okay? How is everything? Most of the time students will say yes, or I'm okay, fine, even when they're not okay. So here's some ways to check on their well-being, and then also how they're doing in their classes as well. Here's an example of, what did you learn in Spanish today? And how do you say call mom more often in Spanish? Tell me some good things about that are happening to you at school today. So that's how you can really find out how's their well-being at JMU. How do they like their professors? That could be a long conversation just with that question alone. And then tell me some experiences that you've had in your classes this week. So those are some prompts that can help you because you can really get to the gist or the heart of the matter of saying, hey, I need you to answer. I need to know how are you doing truly, not in the classroom, but then also how are you doing overall with that. And then of course, we're gonna have some time for questions in just a moment. So if you have some questions, put those in the Q&A chat. I know we had some shortly and then we lost connection for a moment. So if you did put a question in there before, go ahead and put that back in there again, because I don't see anything right now in there, but go ahead and put a question in there and then I will answer those questions. But we want our students to have a great start at JMU. And we know that one of the top factors that influence their first semester GPA is the degree to which their family members show emotional support to them. And so, talking with your student is the best way to understand their commitments while they're in school. Family encouragement and support goes a long way in helping your student to become proactive about their learning. And you truly do make a difference in student success, your student success in college. So families do matter. That's why we have family orientation now versus when 20th Century McGee didn't have family orientation. So we do appreciate you being involved in the process and being here today. So without further ado, I'm going to see if there's any questions because we do have some time. I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time to answer the questions that we had that were going to come up today. And I know there was one question about what if a student does not have a schedule today. So if your student doesn't have so also what's happening in the advising session is that students are meeting with their advisors and the advisors had a schedule printout or printouts of all the schedules for students who are attending today about 2 or 3 days ago. So they were able to look at the schedules and make sure that they were enrolled in the right classes. If they weren't, or they needed to make some changes or adjustments to the schedule, then they've made that notation, I guess in this case, electronically for the student to make those changes. If they need to go to what we call an enrollment lab, virtual lab that we have set up today, then they will give them the link to get the assistance that they need to make those changes to that schedule. If they don't have a schedule at all, then most likely the advisor will send the student a link to go into the virtual lab where there'll be a few advisors who are in the enrollment lab to assist students with creating a schedule as well. Most students have registered for classes. We have about definitely over 4,500 students that have registered for classes for this incoming class. And so they were able to start registering the week of June 14th. So they've had a while to register. And actually this is the last day for students to be able to register or enroll in a class before the system shuts down. So they have until 11:59 p.m. tonight to register for classes. After that, the system shuts down and then it opens back up on August 2nd for all JMU students. So not only the first year students, but sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and grad students. It will open back up for everybody to be able to make changes. So we always encourage students to take advantage of this time because they're not competing with upperclassmen for any classes at this particular moment. Let's see, are there any other questions? I don't see. Let's see here. All right, here's another one. It looks like it has been answered, but let's see. If you pick a major, is it easy to know what classes to take? And there are those students who are going in as undecided. How does JMU help them or guide them to pick a major of study? So yes, if they pick a major or if they choose a major, and really if they're undeclared at this point, we have what's called the first semester worksheets, and students were given that link, access to that page uh, whenever the advisor made first contact with them. We call that the email of first contact. So, um, so with so they were able to click on the link of their major. If they're undeclared, it'll say undeclared, and they will see the list of required courses they needed to take, um, recommended courses they need to take, and then optional courses they need to take for their first semester. So based on their major. If they're undeclared, then there's some general education courses, which most students will be taking this semester in order to fulfill their obligations towards making progress towards their degree. They also, for each of the majors, they would say specifically which courses that they need to take with that. In terms of helping a student decide, that's where the exploratory advisor, the first year advisor, will be working with them to explore some options. If they were leaning towards one major or another, then their first year advisor would work with the enrollment management team to get them access to be able to sign up for the intro class for that major. So that's how we're able to assist students. Another question is, how will students be notified of official credit for AP classes, and how does that affect their requirements? So for the students who will be receiving AP credits, I know that's, I think it might be today that they finally get it. It's really late this year versus years past, where it's usually been the first week of July that we get those credits in, but the College Board, for some reason, has been a little slow with that process. So if they, when their credit come in, they won't be notified. They'll actually need to go into their My Madison account and look at their academic records. And then they'll see if they got credit. They can also look at test scores as an option too. But they'll see if they got credit for the course. If they did, it'll show up as the class or course that they received credit for. So for example, if they took AP English and they achieved a score of 5, then they will see the WRTC 103 course listed on their transcript that they received credit for that. They can also click on academic requirements in My Madison, and they'll be able to see the courses, all the courses they need to take in order to graduate from JMU, and they'll be able to see that AP credit listed on there as well. If their score was too low, then they'll need to look in test scores, click on test scores, and they'll see that if they made a 4 instead of a 5 in this example, then they would not have received credit for that course, and it will say something to the effect of score too low for AP credit. So I hope that answers the question as well. Any other questions that we have? We have plenty of time, which is great. So awesome. And then once they, for example, if they signed up for WRTC, which is that writing course, if they signed up for that course and then they'll need to drop that course and replace it with another class, and their first year advisor will help them with that. Or if they're familiar with the process already, they can just go in and they'll know, oh, I can take another general education course in place of that and do it on their own. But they do have till 11:59 p.m. tonight. And then after that, they'll have to wait until August 2nd to make those changes. Another question, right? Question says here, it's not the question says, but someone says here, how long will it take for the AP credit to show up if the scores came out today? So if they came out today, that means that what I mean by today, that means that they were posted, in other words. So the registrar's office had received it, and so they posted. Again, that's going to vary by student, so they just need to keep checking each day. I would say check daily to see if those credits have been posted. If they have not been posted, then after a certain time, let's say by next Monday, they still don't see the credit showing up, then what I would do is ask them to contact the registrar's office. They can email them to see, to check on the AP credit, to see where that is. And then they will give them an update about have they received it or have they not received it at this point. All right. So here's another good question here. It seems like all classes are full when my student has tried to register. Will there really be more openings on August 2nd? That's a good question. What we're trying to do now is our enrollment management team usually holds some of those courses back so that we can help some of those students, or they will talk to some of the department heads about opening up more seats or opening another section to assist with the registration process, enrollment process. So if they've had trouble getting to classes today, then they should have a link. Their first year advisor should give them a link to that virtual lab where we can ask our enrollment management team, what is that, if there's space for particular classes to fit into their schedule as well. So it's better to work with someone in the lab. Of course, they can still go by and check, because as AP credit scores are being posted, a lot of students are relieving some of the courses, some of the classes that they no longer need at that point. So it'll change. And then on more openings on August 2nd, it really depends on what they're looking for. It might be some more openings for, +1 courses, which is part of Gen Ed, but it might not be a lot of, let's say, courses in the major itself. But one of the things the first year advisors do is in terms of taking a priority is to make sure that students have those courses that are required right now for them to take. All right, I think we have another one here. Oh, all right. All right. So it said, here's a question about someone's daughter had signed up to take a writing course. Is it not available anymore? If she signed up, then it should be on her schedule. So in order to actually sign up, you have to enroll in the class. So if she enrolled in a class and went through the process, again, a first year academic advisor has given her the tools as well as had an opportunity to meet with them or given their students the opportunity to meet with them to go over the process. There's also videos that are available that help the students that walk them through how to enroll in classes. But their first year advisor also walks them through or can walk them through about that. So they are, okay, so it says she is enrolled. She thought that she heard that they needed to drop it. No, they don't need to, well, if this is pertaining to the AP credit for WRTC, if that's the case, then yes, they would need to drop that course if they already have credit, but it should show up on their transcript first before they drop it. So they won't drop a WRTC course until it actually has shown up on their transcript. Or if they already know they have a 5, in this case, they have the score that they need, then it could drop it as well. All right, good questions here. Check in the chat. If you have a question, you can post that in the Q&A chat. That's where I can see it the best, but if it's in the other chat, then I'm also checking, or your typical chat box. I can check that as well. And the main thing is if your student, this is the day to do it, because this is it before August 2nd opens up. At that point, the first year advisor won't have as much, for lack of a better word, power, quote unquote, to be able to assist your advisor, as much power as they have right now, because they can work closely with the enrollment management team. After today, pretty much that goes back to all of the academic unit heads or unit heads of the departments. And so they decide how many seats that they're going to be able to open, and they may not have seats to open, depending on what courses they're referring to with that. But they can still reach out to the advisor, because their first year advisor may work in that department. As I said, there are faculty members as well as professional advisors that work in in the departments that can help them with that. But for the most part, we have a very good percentage, typically um, somewhere around 98, 99% of our students have a full schedule and they're ready to go when the first day of classes come. But